Vidite?
Vidimo, sve je u redu.
Da, jer ja ne vidim, neke sam kliknula pa mi se sad ugasio, ali dobro, ne.
Dobro, uglavnom čuješ nas, sve je u redu. You can hear us. Okay. So I got the signal. We can start for today. Yes. So hello everyone again. I'm Milko Belevski from Zadar Public Library. I'm American Corner Coordinator and President of Zadar Library Association. Today we have a connection with Washington, D.C. in the United States, from Arlington. And our guest is Diane Kresh. She is Arlington Public Library Director. And we have opportunity today to hear their professional librarian experience. Hello, Diane. Can you hear me? Is everything okay with the connection? Video, sound, everything is good?
Perfect.
So, perfect. Great. Thank you very much. So, Diane Kresh, after a 31-year career at the Library of Congress, the world's largest research library, she joined
Arlington Public Library Director. Opportunity today to hear their...
Sorry, I have some delay of sound. Just a
Hello,
second.
Diane. Can you hear me? Is everything okay with the connection? Video, sound?
The sound is mixed here.
Perfect. Great.
YouTube.
Thank you very much. So, Diane Kresh, after a 31-year career at the Library of Congress, the world's largest research library.
Just a second, please.
Public Library Director.
I have some technical problems.
Sorry, I have some delay of sound. Just a second. Can you hear me? Is everything okay with the connection? Video,
the sound mixed to you also. It's double.
Great, thank you very much. So, then Kresh.
Just a second, we need to prepare this. I don't know what's going on.
The world's largest research library. I have some technical problems. Sorry, I have some delay of sound. Just can you hear me? Is everything okay with the connection? Video,
the sound mixed to you also. It's double.
Great, thank you very much. So,
just a second. We need to wait to clear the sound, please.
Can you hear me? Is everything okay with the connection? Video, sound mixed to you also. It's double. Great, thank you very much. So,
just a second. We need to wait to clear the sound. I don't know what's going on now. Evo, jesam sad. Evo, jesam sad. Hello. Je li sad moguće ovaj... Hello. Imamo stalno nas dupla zvuk. We don't know what's going on. We try to manage this problem. Je li sad moguće ovaj... Hello. Stalno nas dupla zvuk. We have a double sound all the time. We don't know what's going on. We try to manage this problem. Je li sad moguće Jesi uspio nešto? Dupla zvuk. We have a double sound all the time. We don't know what's going on. We try to manage this problem. Ok, hajde da vidimo što je. Ajde. We have a double sound all the time. We don't know what's going on. We try to manage this. Ok, hajde da vidimo što je. I dalje imam taj problem. We all have still have double sound. Is it now something better? Ok, hajde da vidimo što je. I dalje imam taj problem. Is it something still have double sound? Is it now something better? Okay, I will try disconnect it and try just me. I will try to connect it again. Okay. Is it now something better?
Maybe we can continue without Milko. He's troublemaker.
Okay, I will try disconnect it and try just me. I will try to connect it again. Okay. Now something better.
Maybe we can continue without Milko. He's troublemaker.
I will try disconnect it and try just me. I will try to connect it again. Okay. Now something better.
Maybe we can continue without Milko. He's troublemaker.
Can you hear me now? Can you please check your sound speaker? Maybe from somebody it's too loud, and this sound is going on your speaker. You know, on your microphone from the speaker. and it's always double the sound. Is it now better? Somebody look at from your YouTube simultaneously.
Your sound speaker. Maybe from somebody it's too loud, and this sound is going on your speaker. You know, on your microphone from the speaker, and it's always double the sound. Is it now better? Somebody look at from your YouTube simultaneously. Your sound speaker. Maybe from somebody.
Nobody. Okay.
And this sound is going on your.
I don't know what's going on.
On your microphone from the speaker, and it's always double.
So even we still have same problem.
Nobody. Okay. I don't know what's going on.
So, okay, I got the information that now it's more better. Is it good for you now? Yes. And can you allow the speaker from the participant even, please, for Maria, Martina, Mariana, and Dorothea? Okay. Can you hear me now, all of you? But can you say something, because I don't hear you?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. So I'm really sorry for this, but that is our COVID life and COVID situation. And this is a reflection how we worked last 1.5 years. And we are really pioneer in this situation. It's new for all of us, but we can't.
Can you say something, because I don't.
Okay, it's again. I think so.
Okay, great. So I'm really sorry for this, but that is our COVID life and COVID situation. And this is a reflection of how we worked last 1.5 years. And we are really pioneer in this situation. It's new for all of us, but we can't say something, because I don't. Okay, it's again. I think so. Okay.
So I don't know if it's if this doesn't work, guys. I suggest to leave this event for today and maybe manage some other days, because if this is problem, we can't work on this way for today. Or we can try just once, and even tell me that we can just check again, just a few minutes. Let's see what's going on. Okay, is it now good for you?
Yeah. Yes.
So we turn off Martina. And now it's okay. Martina, maybe you have some some kind of problems there, maybe with the speakers or with the something. But now it works without you. Okay, can we try to turn on her and to see what's going on, just to taste? Okay, we will try with Martina again, and we find the problem, I think so. But we will try to connect her, and if it works, we will start. Okay. Okay, please. Okay, now Martina, just accept the sound, please. You can turn on your speaker. Okay. So can we start like this now? Are you agree, all of you guys? I think it's a work like this. I'm really sorry for this situation. It's happened. We can't always arrange things like that. Always is everything perfect. But when we start on Monday, the connection was really great. And if you agree, I will start shortly from the beginning. So today we have Diane Kresh. So hello, Diane. I'm sorry for this situation. We lose 15 minutes, but we have time for today. Don't worry. And okay, Diana was, she's after a 31-year career from Library of Congress. She came to work and joined to Arlington Public Library as director at April of 2006. Okay, today she will talk about the pandemic situation in her library in the United States. She will talk about online activities, role of social media, and experience situation during this COVID pandemic times. And also she will say something about events related to the US elections, Trump-Biden government transitions, and how did all that affect that American society and a reflection of library community. So today with us is also Dorotea Kamber-Kontić from Zadar. She's a Zadar Public Library Director. Hello, Dorotea. So she said hello. So we will continue briefly for this, and with us is Martina Drage Ivanović from the University of Zadar, and also Mariana Tomić from University Zadar, and Marija Cvetnić-Koplar from US Embassy. So we don't have too much time for today. We have 1 hour, and we are honored to have Diane Kresh with us. And so we give her a podium. So Diane, please, we can start with your lecture. Thank you very much. So please, you're welcome.
Sure. Thank you, Milko, and I think you handled that very, very well. You were very patient. I would have been, but you're absolutely right. It's a sign of the times that we're living in, where we have to improvise and make the best of a situation. It would be much better if we were all in person having a conversation, but that's mostly not possible now. So as Milko said, I'm the director of Arlington Public Library, and I have been the director for 15 years, and nothing in my entire experience could have prepared me for the last year. It has been a very, very difficult year, and I will talk a little bit about that, but also a lot of good things happened. And I will talk about that as well. I tend to think about opportunities rather than just challenges. And I think the staff responded very well. We closed in March of last year. A week before we closed completely, there was a record of seven people in the county who were ill with COVID. And a year later, that number is in the hundreds. So things went very quickly from a situation where not everybody was sure what was going on to a very serious crisis. And so we closed all of our libraries, completely closed. And initially we thought it was going to be for a week, 2 weeks, 1 month. Instead, it's been mostly the last year. We did ask staff to work from home if they could answer telephones or reference questions. We also allowed a number of people to work for other departments doing the same kind of work, but nobody was on site anywhere in the entire government. And the library is part of Arlington government of about 3,000 employees. everyone was home working. And that was the situation that continued until June. In June, we decided the library to reopen. I have a system of 8 libraries, a central library and 7 branches. And we started with the central library, very limited service, just book delivery. So you would go on to the catalog, you would order your book, and then you would come to the library to pick it up, okay? Sounds simple, except it was a lot of work because we didn't want anybody in the public to handle the books. And we wanted to make sure that the staff handled the book at every step. Get the request, pull the book, quarantine, get it ready for discharge, come back in, repeat the process. So it was a very labor-intensive process. We also required that all staff wear masks at all times. Also, members of the public. Many of the staff wore gloves, even though public health did not say it was necessary, the staff felt it was necessary. And nobody from the public was allowed into the building except if they had a mask, and all they could do was come and pick up their books and leave. No computers, no conversation, no use of the meeting rooms, no story time, no nothing. And that's the situation that we had until March of this year. So almost a full year of just book delivery. Now we were able to deliver something like 400,000 books, so a lot, but not anything near what we normally do in circulation in a given year. So what else were we doing? We were also creating a lot of virtual experiences for the patrons. I did author interviews and we would post them on Facebook. The library, children's librarians would do story time, post it on YouTube. And that was the way that we kept connected with the community, because again, nobody could come into the buildings. So how did the community respond? The community was mostly okay. They understood the need to be safe and to observe health guidelines and to make sure that what we were doing, we could continue to do. Many jurisdictions opened, closed, opened, closed. Whereas once we opened, we stayed open, even though the level of service was very small. We also saw a huge rise in our ebooks, lots and lots and lots of ebooks. And at some point, we started creating bundles of books for children, because it's very hard for children to use the library catalog. So the reference staff would put together bundles of books, and then parents could come in and pick them up. They didn't even have to pre-order them. They would just pick them up. So that's the situation that we had until March of this year. I want to stop for a second, because not only was this a strain for the staff, having to be conscious of health and safety all the time, but it was also a strain for the community. And we did a complete reconfiguration of our library. People would come into the building and go into the auditorium where normally we have events and author talks, but the staff were sitting behind plexiglass across the room, staff on the other side, and with masks and gloves, members of the public with masks, every few feet hand sanitizer, and then we would hand the books to the readers and then they would go. So the average transaction probably was a minute. And then we did that over and over again, 7 days a week, not all day. We would open at noon and we would end at 6. The staff would get ready for the next day. So you can imagine the staff alone were handling all of the books. So the volume of books that we were moving in and out of the building was thousands per day. And again, it was a strain for the staff and for the library, okay, and the members of the public. I'd say that the public was very supportive of the library for much of the year until they started to get frustrated about why is the library not open? I can go to the grocery store. I can go to the bookstore. I can go other places, limited capacity, but there was much more mobility as the year went on. But I felt that we had a good system that was both safe and sustainable. Everybody could get what they wanted. There was a lot of virtual programming. There was a lot of books. There were a lot of ebooks and materials going out the door. So we did not want to rush reopening at the expense of either the staff or the community. So that went pretty well until we started to get complaints from the public about, you're not opening, you must not want to work, you must be lazy, you shouldn't get paid. And we still maintained that what we were doing was in everybody's best interest. We didn't change that until March, when we opened 2 of our branches. And when we opened those branches, that's when we allowed people to come into the building in a very limited time, initially 15 minutes, and then 30 minutes, go pick out your book, check it out, self-check, and then leave. And that's what we've been doing since the middle of March. At no time did anyone, either on the staff or a member of the public, get sick from using the library. No evidence of that. We were not a super spreader event. No one became ill. And so we were convinced that what we were doing, although very modest and very limited, was in the best interest of everyone. We had our budget sessions in March. Every year we get appropriations from our local government, and we got permission to reopen all of our locations by the end of the calendar year. So we'll open 2 more in July and then 2 more in the fall, and only 1 will remain closed because the building it's in is being renovated. So I wanted to talk a little bit about innovation, because it wasn't all bad news. We had a lot of staff become very creative about what they could do for the community, either virtually or in a very limited capacity in person. So one of the first things that we did was to create an online magazine. Some of you might know what zines are. And we created something that we called Quaranzine, right? A little joke, Quaranzine. And we invited all of our community to contribute essays, photographs, drawings, pictures, quotations, anything that they felt would communicate how they were doing with the pandemic, okay? So the Quaranzine started publishing almost immediately, coming out every couple of weeks with stories and pictures and poetry and photographs. And it was a huge, huge success. The community responded really well because it was a place for them to tell other people how they were feeling. Some of the library staff, me included, also helped with food drives. There were a lot of people in the community who, because they couldn't work, lost paychecks. And so they were worried about making rent payments, having enough money for food on the table. And we helped create a food cooperative where we actually created food banks, delivered Meals on Wheels to people who couldn't get out of their buildings. Because remember, most everybody was in lockdown. So we did that probably for 2.5 months and fed thousands of people per week, working with other agencies in the government, like human services, like technology services, like housing services, to make sure that people could both stay in their homes as well as not go hungry. And we worked also very closely with our school system because some of our students are dependent on free lunch. It's a federal program that makes sure that no child goes hungry during the week. The weekend is sometimes a different story. And people might be surprised to hear that we are a very wealthy community, and we have pockets of our community where people are living below the poverty level. So we were very conscious of making sure that no one went hungry. The library also helped to establish 2 COVID hotels. And the COVID hotels were for people who are homeless, who had no place else to go, but had to be protected from getting the virus. And so we helped set up the hotels as well as staff them. So those were some of the kinds of things that are not the usual work of the library, right? To help the homeless, to help with delivery of meals, to make sure that people have money for rent check, for groceries, any kind of human services we helped provide. We didn't pay for it, but we helped provide the labor, the support, driving, delivering, and being in person on the phone, telling people how they could get services. So maybe I should stop there because that gives the overall background and gives somebody a chance to ask a question or make sure I don't leave something out. So I will pause.
Thank you, Diane. For now, surely we will have some questions, but just we need to check the sound now. I think everything is okay. We hear you clearly, and everything is okay with the technique. But Martina, if you want to ask, you can try to unmute yourself now, please. Okay.
Thank you. Now is everything okay? Okay.
I hope so.
Thank you very much for your introduction. It was very interesting, especially because I never heard about that kind of services like food corporation and hotel. But can you tell me how you prepare your employee for work in online environment? Do they have required skills before, or do you need to manage some special sessions, lectures?
Okay. So let me make sure I understand. Preparing the staff to be able to work in an online environment.
Yeah. Yes. Because I made some research where I find information that a lot of American librarians actually didn't have required skills for new online life. Right. Because actually in Croatia also we didn't have that knowledge.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent question. The first thing that was a challenge was everybody was at home, but they were expected to work. So if they didn't have a skill set, like even to sign on to a group meeting, like we use something called Teams, which is Microsoft, and you all are using Zoom, which is something else. But we never used these, ever, ever, ever. And so all of a sudden, everybody had to get very skilled in how to join a meeting, how to answer the chat, how to add people, how to show slides. Now notice I didn't show slides today because I didn't get very good at that. But it was the expectation, and a lot of it was learning by doing. There really wasn't time to set up training sessions. Most of our staff have some basic ability to use technology. Some of the older staff, not as good, but it's the expectation that everybody will be able to use the online catalog, to use social media, to be able to post things. And so even though some people were not as good, the expectation was that they would be able to participate. Now, one very interesting thing, we were changing our integrated library system at the same time we were closed, right? Our online catalog and accounts billable system, the contract was expiring for that in June. So we were acquiring a new web-based system. Normally we would do hands-on training so that everybody would know how to search the catalog, check out a book, update a patron account, all of that. We had to do every stage of the implementation online, virtually, training, everything. And so not everybody was involved. I was not involved, for example, but the staff who were had to test and implement and bring the whole system up in order for us to reopen the middle of June. That was an extraordinary accomplishment. I cannot say enough about the patience and the intelligence and the willingness of the staff to do that. But we had no choice. The contract was expiring. So it was, we have a phrase called sink or swim. So everybody had to either figure it out or we were not going to be able to open. So we were able to do that. I'd say not all of our staff is adept even now at using online systems, but they are getting better and better because this situation of, I'm going to call it a hybrid, of being a little bit in person and a lot online is going to continue probably for the next 6 months. I don't expect return to March 17, 2020 for another several months, both because of what it takes to reopen a building after it's been closed for a while and setting up the plexiglass and all of that, as well as training. The other thing I forgot to mention is that we lost 27% of our public service staff during the months we were closed. They retired, they took other jobs, they left the county. We also have a lot of temporary staff, and we had to let them go because most of our facilities were closed. When we were ready to reopen, they didn't want to come back. So over the next few months, we're going to have to rehire a lot of people, especially managers. I probably have maybe 15 vacancies, and it's impossible to manage 8 different locations with so few people. So it's going to be a long time to rebuild, probably again through the end of the calendar year. So does that answer the question about online environment?
Yeah. It's very stressful, actually. Librarians working in stressful conditions today. But do you have some special sessions with a psychologist for your employees? Because there is a special situation.
Yes, that's a great question. We did invite, the office is called Employee Assistance, and they are trained social workers who worked with us to make sure people could manage the stress and anxiety. We also, a number of the staff had to get released from work with a medical accommodation because they had a pre-existing condition, which meant that they could not work in the library, even with masks, while the pandemic was at its highest level and there was no vaccine. So now we have the vaccine, so more and more people who had a medical accommodation, that will probably go away. But the stress really hasn't. It's better. And we, I would do a monthly, well, when we were first closed, I would do a weekly Teams meeting with the staff, and everybody who wanted to sign on could sign on. And I would say what's going on and what the rate of infection was and what we were doing. And I would play the guitar and sing a song and try to make it seem like we can get through this. We can get through this. It's bad. We can get through this. So I did that until June when we reopened. And then I would actually come into the library, walk around, talk to people, tell them if they need to take time off, if they need to go outside and get air, you know, whatever. But we did get professional assistance to talk about coping mechanisms. Breathe, meditate, get lots of sleep, drink lots of water, have a beer.
Milko.
Not at work, not at work. But, you know, that kind of thing, just because we're all human and people will, you know, some of our staff were worried about their families, and we had a couple of women who had just had babies and they were worried. So we had to be both mindful of taking care of ourselves, taking care of the staff, making sure that the community was reassured that the library would stay open. So we did use those resources a lot.
Milko, did you start meditating?
Yes,
Yeah.
already, but I didn't drink any beer today for today. Maybe later.
Maybe later, right.
Maybe later. Yes. So I'm really proud of you, all of you guys. So we didn't freaking out because of this technical situation. So it's very important in these days, during these times, to a little bit you know, to calm down, to be not stressful, to be really on the land and to think positive. And all community or all society is stressful during this time, and it's important to think on that way, especially because we work with all of kind of people, you know, all kind of people coming in the libraries, especially in the public libraries, and they have their expressions, their way of thinking, you know, they have their expectations, and like you said, Diane, they think that some of them think that we need to work all the time, that it is nothing happen. Some people are afraid, so they need to take to have a special care, you know, because they are nervous or in a panic, and it's sometimes it's a really strange situation to work with the people. But you know, it's a lot of things. It's depend of the politic, what they say, and some medicine guys who will tell us what to do, how to do, you know, what kind of restrictions we need to follow, and things like that. But you know, I'm really proud that like librarians, we try to survive this situation in much in the best way what we can. So we are not the Supermans, you know, we are only humans, like you said, but we need to give a service to them, to give to work the best what we can, and that's it, you know.
Right. That's so true. And I think the biggest strain, frankly, I think was on the managers, and all of you are managers and you manage people. And it was very important for me to be upbeat and be very, we can do this. And for the people who work with me, because the staff was looking to the leaders for guidance and support and to make it seem like what we were doing was the right thing. So I think the burden, there was a very heavy burden borne by all of the leaders. And I think they did a great job. They were realistic. They were sensitive to how the staff was feeling, so they knew when to push and when not to push as we tried to do more and more. So I think that was a real test, not only of our commitment to the public and our jobs as librarians, but also a commitment and an understanding of who we are as people and how we build relationships and how we take care of each other. I think those were surprises a little bit, that we spent so much time. There's a, can you hear the siren?
Yes. Special effect. We have special effects today. Yeah.
Okay, not my building.
It passed.
So I think that part was very, and for some people, you know, some people are very businesslike, and that's a little bit harder for them. And for the people, I think it was a good opportunity for them to show how important it was to be sensitive and compassionate and empathetic. So I think those qualities of the leaders really were put to a big test. And I think they responded beautifully. I do want to talk about the role of the library in the society, because we did have a major national election last year. And you read the newspapers, you follow, I'm sure, somewhat what's happening in the United States. The United States is in a very difficult position right now. Polarization, groups of people are more divided than ever. And that's true at the national level. It's true at the local level. There have been many acts of violence against immigrants and against people of color. There has always been a challenge with the United States and its long history of slavery. So there's always been tension, but over the last several years, it's become worse. The former President Trump didn't start it, but he is a product of it, and in many ways made it worse through some of the language that he used and some of the policies that he and his administration adopted. And I think the biggest challenge we face now as both a society and also as professional librarians is what to do about disinformation. It used to be you could go to the library and you would get facts and you would get the tools that you need to live the quality of life that you deserve. And now most institutions, including libraries, are suspect. They're considered to be political. I have been accused of having a political agenda if I have books about gay people on my shelves or books about Black people. If I have a poster during Black History Month, people will accuse me of favoring one group of people over another. And that didn't used to happen. That's new. And we try to say we are representative of all points of view. Everybody is welcome. White people are welcome. Brown people are welcome. Black people, Asian, everybody is welcome. But members of this community, and I grew up in this community, there are people who feel very differently. And whereas before they might have been quiet, they're not quiet anymore. And I do believe that is a difficult thing because disinformation is promoted, especially on social media. Twitter, Facebook, and both of those platforms influenced our national elections, both this time, but certainly in 2016. And that's a very difficult thing for a public-facing, publicly funded institution to have to deal with. Because I feel like we are constantly pushing to make sure that people understand that this over here is not true, this is. And there are many, 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 many millions of non-believers. Which is affecting health policy, it's affecting schools and whether they are open or not. It affects business and whether they reopened too soon during the pandemic. I think it's important for people to know that 500,000 people died in the pandemic in this country alone. And yet there are still people who say it's a hoax and it's not true and that their vaccine doesn't work. And these are not just people who are on the fringe. They are people who write editorials for the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. And they are very, very present in the media. And that is a very, very difficult thing to both try to work against, as well as keep preaching that there is truth. Because if you say something someone else doesn't agree with, they tell you it's fake. And that is a very, very difficult situation. And it came to a crisis on January 6th. I'm sure many of you read about the riot at the US Capitol building, because the former president said the election was a lie, that the new president was not the new president, and he told the people to storm the Capitol. That doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in the United States, not since the Civil War. And yet, increasingly, there are people who are conspiracy theorists who keep saying that the election was a lie, and as a result, and I will get back to what this does for libraries, but because they claim that the election is a lie and they have so many platforms on which to preach that, more and more voting rights are being restricted as a result. So our democracy is shrinking not expanding. And I think this is a very, very scary time for people who believe in public institutions, the right of people to know and make up their own minds. A lot of our newspapers are now gone. Local news is very, very negligible. People don't believe the New York Times necessarily or the Washington Post. Fox News gets more viewers than anyone. And so the information industry is under threat. And so I think for librarians, it's the challenge to not be drawn in, to maintain that level of we provide information for everybody. We are welcoming to everybody. We treat everybody with respect and dignity. We are inclusive and try to drown out. But I'm absolutely, I've been in this profession for 40 years. It's difficult. Much more difficult, my job today, than it was when I entered. And I think it's going to take politicians and leaders of all kinds, including faith leaders, to have serious conversations about what kind of country we want the United States to be. Not what it was back in the 1940s or the 50s or the 60s, but what we want it to be like today and start acting like it. And that's not where we are right now. So I'm sorry, I might sound very grave right now, but I think it is a very serious situation. And so I would encourage people, young people on this platform who are interested in truth and freedom and justice, to do everything they can to make sure that the people you serve have a right to those gifts. You can't take it for granted. You cannot take it for granted. You cannot take freedom for granted. You cannot take free elections for granted. You cannot take the fact that people will, oh, they're smart, they'll figure it out. You have to help them. Teachers have to help them. Librarians have to help them. And that's the only way we are going to survive. In this country, biggest and maybe the greatest, but it's a very, very dark time for the United States. And I am not going to sugarcoat it. And I think it's an important time for librarians to assert who we are and who we can be and how we can help. We cannot do it alone, but we can help. So I'm going to stop there for a second.
Okay. So we have one question here in chat room, so I can read it for you then. Okay. Did your library suffer from material damage in riots?
We have not suffered any material damage. That's one thing we're very lucky about. And very soon we are going to lift the quarantine. So we're not going to quarantine books when they come back to the library. The science says that it's COVID, you don't get from COVID from touching materials, inert materials like that. So we're going to get rid of that. And of course, you don't have those problems with e-materials. So no material damage.
Okay. So is there any question there? Martina, do you want to ask something more? Okay.
Yes, Diane, today we are a lot in front of screen. Our users are bound with video materials, and we expect that they have time and strength to watch our programs, lectures like this today. But sometimes our programs are without users or for just a few users. So what do you think? Do we need produce programs for that few users, or we need to change our strategy for to attract more users?
That is, that's the age-old question. I have had to make choices over the last year because I just didn't have enough people to do everything. Even doing virtual program, we said, okay, no in-person, virtual. We still had to make choices about how much. So here's my philosophy. I believe that talking to your users is the number one thing to do, and to try not to think about what they want, but to ask them what they want. And I'm very lucky in my community. They have told me, we want author programs. We like it when the library director interviews an important author and talks about current events and what literature is about and how we collect stories and how we deal with the immigration crisis or climate change or any of those things. So I push more for those because I know the community wants them. But I also know that we have many, many, many families with young children, and they love the library. So even though the quality of the production of the story times that were virtual weren't as good as you would get on public television, for example, we still did them. Will I continue doing them? Probably not. As we start to reopen and allow small numbers of people to come into the buildings, we probably won't do as much of little children, because little children, I mean, they need they need people, right? It's very hard for a 2-year-old to listen to a story, on the screen, right? Unless it's a cartoon or something. They don't have the same attention span. So, and it's interesting too, because the schools are having the same problem. We think kids, they're on their device. Well, they're on their devices when they want to be. But if they have to learn that way, many students have had real struggles and they don't pay attention. So I think that we're going to have to spend a lot of time thinking about what's on the screen and what we can push out and what people will want to absorb and what is better left for when we can be in person. And so we're going to have to make philosophical choices, I think, about what is best delivered in person and what is best delivered online. But we did make choices about what we were not going to do. And that's something I think that we always do. That we don't have an unlimited amount of money. We don't have an unlimited amount of resources. We don't have an unlimited amount of people who can do different things. So we always have to make choices, but I always start with, what does the community want? And then within the community, what do those most in need want? Do they need computer literacy? Do they need help learning how to read? Do they need help finding medical assistance? Do they need help even getting to the library? And that's where we tend to try to drive our resources. We're also dealing with a community where there are lots of people getting older than I am, lots older, and they're staying in their homes. And what kind of library services will they benefit from? What if they can't leave their house? What if they don't know how to drive a car? What if they can no longer drive because their eyesight is bad? And so how do we keep them engaged? Loneliness is one of the most serious things that older people face. So how can the library make a difference in the life of somebody who doesn't have family, whose spouse is dead, or maybe never had a spouse, who lives alone and is isolated? How do we as librarians address loneliness and isolation? Was that Martina what you were hoping to hear?
Of course, but there are so many new questions. Okay, but it's enough. I think one of my students have something to say. Marita? Milko, do you want to read, or
okay.
your opinion about it?
We can connect her on microphone. Even okay, can you connect Marita Katunaric? Maybe she want to ask, or we can read whatever. But we can connect her, but maybe she want to ask directly.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I don't have questions. It's just
comment, actually.
Yeah, just a comment. The way your library managed the situation, not only with the pandemic, but in a political sense, and that it's not only about borrowing books, right? It's like giving help and trying to connect everybody and to be the same for everybody without any, I don't know how to say, without any differences.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, that's absolutely true. We're all human, and we all have our own preferences and ideas about what is smart or right or whatever. But when you come into the library, you have to set that aside. And even there have been some books that came into the library over the last couple of years. Oh, actually the last year, that I personally found offensive. But because we have an oath and an allegiance to be against censorship and to promote free exchange of ideas, it didn't matter what I thought. So we have to make difficult choices sometimes, I guess is what I'm saying. And that's part of the attraction, I think, of being in this kind of profession, because I think your personal beliefs are always put to a test. And, you're able to promote many good things, and you're also forced to confront the fact that not everything is great, but you still have to represent that point of view. I also wanted to make another connection too with the elections. Many libraries, and I don't know if it's true in Croatia, but many libraries serve as polling places. So people can come and cast their ballot in the library. And one of the things that we did last year because of the pandemic is that we did much more advance voting, mail-in ballots. And we had mail-in ballot collector machine, not a machine, boxes at a couple of our library locations, so that people got their ballot in the mail, fill it out, mail it back. And I thought that was very important for the library to be a symbol of free elections by having the ballot boxes on the premises. We didn't manage them, we didn't set them up, we didn't open them up, none of that, but they were on the library. And to me, that was a very powerful visual symbol of what an important institution the library is for freedom of expression and for freedom of choice. So I hope we continue to be a site for those boxes. And thank you to the student who made the comment. It was an excellent comment. Thank you.
So is there any more comments or any questions? Maria, do you want to say something? No, you are disconnected or?
Sorry. No,
okay.
I'm not. I have a lot as well. I would like to comment the situation Diane described right now in the United States with the divided society. So just for your comfort, we are living all our history, we are divided society in Croatia. And now my generation is suffering because our parents were partisans or Ustasha, which means supporter of the fascistic regime. So we have those two groups that are fighting. Then you have left and right options. So those two groups. Then probably in your childhood, someone was a hippie and another was a punker. So it's another trouble. So always, you know, fighting. But what I am thinking about, you know, we can all agree that education is probably the most important thing to rise the
differences.
Yeah, to rise the sense of the compassion and the understanding. And if we can agree that today citizen is better educated than the citizen like 100 or 500 years ago, but we still behave in a way which is not the way I would like people behave, let's say. And then, you know, and that idea of free speech, I thought maybe it's not the best thing, you know, it's not for everybody. I think I think we will have to like a COVID passport. You will have to get the passport to talk publicly because otherwise, you know, that's why I'm happy that you are here with us, because I'm super happy that I met you in my life and that we can, you know, share many common things and speak about that, which sometimes, you know, I also through my job, I met some Americans who are very, you know, and then I was like, how can this happen? And then some people told me, you know, we think also conservative like you in Croatia, but we are not allowed to say this in the States. Like we hate colored people, this and that. I met such type of Americans. And then I was like with that lady, you know, yeah, I understand. And, you know, and then I thought, you know, maybe better for certain people, it's not to let them or give them opportunity to have any kind of influence. And with this new technology, we cannot stop. And the result is that we are living on the flat earth, that the chemtrails are going around. And I mean,
Yes, but what you can do, like librarians here in Croatia, what produce some tutorials, just another webinars about information literacy.
So that's
because I don't feel that that our libraries actually even talk anything about that problems.
Yeah,
we say we are not a social worker, we are not a journalist, we are not, I don't know what, psychiatrist. Okay, we are librarians, but we also have some roles in this society and some duties in these societies.
I may just respond. So, I mean, it's my job to promote American Corners in Croatia, but also I do it with my heart. And I can tell, if Milko can support me, that we are really trying to bring the programs that promote inclusion, that promote media literacy, that promote, you know, entrepreneurship and the spirit, certain values that we learned from. We have them as well as we learn them from the Americans, because entrepreneurial spirit is something I immediately connect with Americans. And then, you know, we try to do such things through the platforms that hosted American Corners, and those platforms are actually public libraries. And I think that with some small steps, some other interested librarians in Croatia recognize this, and they try to copy such things in their smaller libraries, like in Koprivnica, like in Karlovac, even Imotski, which is very traditional and conservative, you know, kind of region. They started to copy, and they just recently did a beautiful exhibition on tolerance, and which was made by the collection was made by the Croatian famous designer Mirko Ilić, who lives in New York for decades, and it's really something that I didn't expect that it will happen in Imotski, for example.
It's very unusual, yeah.
So don't worry, Diane, you are still idols. You have some issues, but just to see how the other part of the world lives.
Well,
Yeah.
That yes, perspective is always good. I would say though, is to Martina's point and what you were just saying, Maria, that you don't give up. You just keep trying and trying. And when you feel you've made a breakthrough, as in the example that you just gave, in a very conservative area, but yet they did this program on tolerance, you celebrate that and you make it a model so that other people can overcome their fear of being different or trying something new. And I think what we lose sight of is it takes a long time. Culture change, beliefs change, habits change, takes a long time, and we have to be patient, but we can't give up.
Yeah.
We can't. We have to say, this is important, and I'm not going to get everybody the first time, but we're going to keep at it. And if that's something that you can instill in your students, to keep trying, and if this doesn't work, try that. I don't know, Thomas Edison, I think he did 1,000 experiments before he created the light bulb. And it was just, he just referred to them as not 1,000, but 1,000 things that didn't work, right? Because he just kept trying and trying and trying and trying and trying. And that's what we have to do as professionals. We're not going to get it all on the first time.
Yes, that's true.
So we spent 1 hour, maybe a little bit more. It was a really short time. We can talk 4 hours, I think so. And okay, I think we are on the end for today. So I want, if maybe somebody still have some question or some comments, so please tell us. We are open to hear that, no problem. So if there is not a question or comments for today, I will thank you, Dan, for your time. It was really fantastic and great conversation what we have with you today. And I think we can continue maybe to organize something like this, maybe during this year once again or soon or sometimes, whatever, but without stress, without bad energy, with the positive energy to do something, maybe to run some project with the students who want to present our librarians to your librarians, maybe to exchange some experience on whatever without.
We would love to do that.
Yes. So Martina, it is then it is adventure and it is opportunity for your students and you to do something. Okay, we can organize like a library or corner, no problem. But we yes,
make some notes.
Yes, we will think about that. But it's really, I think it's really important in these times to talk between each other, to change experience, and we are all human beings. And I think the point is that for freedom, you need to fight all of your life, all your life. It's not for free, just like that. You need to fight. You need to learn, to be educated, to think every day about that. And we are all human beings. And okay, we all have rights, and but we are all different. But it's important to be tolerant, and it's complicated. So sometimes we like to say, okay, life is simple, but people may confuse, and make complicated.
Yes, they do. I just, before we sign off, I want to say thank you for the invitation to be here today. Thank you to Maria and you, Milko and Martina, for being such gracious hosts. I could have gone on and on and on and talked for another 3 hours and maybe had a beer or something. But it's important to have these opportunities to talk about our experiences and learn from each other. And I would absolutely welcome your librarians, Milko, or your students, Martina, or you, Maria, any way we can connect. Clearly we can do it because we're on Zoom and we've had a very good conversation. So I'm very, very open to whatever you would like to do, and so would my staff. They would be very supportive and they would be very thrilled.
So thank you very much for that. And so I also want to remind our dear colleagues, librarians and students in Osijek, because they didn't have opportunity today to connect. They was interesting, but they have their obligations because they have lectures and some other programs. And they ask if we will record this event. And so we are on a YouTube channel, and also other librarians all around Croatia can use these materials and see what we was talking about. So I want also say thank you for our provided YouTube channel from Zadar Library team. We have some small problems, but you know, like you said, Diane, we didn't freak it out, but okay, we are librarians. You know, we work with all kinds of people, and we are, you know, like psychologists. You need to be cool and to listen and then decide, okay, what we're going to do. So we run this event today. I'm really proud of you guys again, and I want to say thanks again for everybody, and see you next time, and take care, all of you, please. So
okay,
for
thank
today,
you.
yes. So see you next time. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.